Testing 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
Once again, welcome to the 2021 Candidates Forum. This is just a great way for all of the neighbors and residents to understand the great commitment these volunteers who are running for town council, where they stand on different issues. Those of you who took the time to send in questions, thank you very much. Those questions haven't been seen by anybody, including myself. I'm Kathy Bachman, Vice President of Organizational Impact with the Colonial Beach Community Foundation. I will be getting those questions from our co-sponsor, the Chamber of Commerce. If I can have the candidates up, we're going to pick the order in which they take questions. So candidates, this will be seat number 1, 2, 3, we guessed it, 4. So if we can pull a number, that would be great, and take that position.
Ladies first.
And you're last.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, and please a reminder to the considerate of your neighbors. We are still in a pandemic, high contagion area. Please wear a mask and keep as much social distancing as possible in this very cold room. We appreciate that. So I'm going to turn this over to, I know Ms. Smurf, I'm sorry, with the Chamber of Commerce in your hands to give their instructions.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, everyone. Like Kathy said, I'm Steve King. Everybody knows me as Smurf, Chamber of Commerce, Board of Directors. This is Mary Ann Day, the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce. So good evening, and welcome to the Candidates Forum for the position of Member of the Town Council of Colonial Beach. This forum is planned and presented by the Colonial Beach Chamber of Commerce and the Colonial Beach Community Foundation. There are a few guidelines that will need to be observed during the forum. The Candidates Forum is not an audience participation event. All questions for individual or all candidates should have been received by this time. Questions from the seated audience will be considered last. Questions will be asked at the discretion of the moderators. Not all questions may be used. Questions of the same category may be combined for clarity or efficiency. Questions will be discarded as being inappropriate or illegible. Questions may be directed to a candidate specifically or all in general. The candidate receiving a question will be given 2 minutes to answer the question. The other candidates will have 1 minute for amplification or rebuttal. For questions directed toward a specific candidate, there will be no rebuttal or comment by other candidates. A candidate may receive a follow-up question at the discretion of the moderators. There is no rebuttal from the other candidates to follow-up questions. Candidates will begin with an opening statement of 2 minutes and finish the evening with a closing statement of 2 minutes. Approximately 90 minutes will be devoted to the questions and answers. I ask that you respect others in the room and to prevent the further spread of COVID-19 virus by wearing a properly fitted face mask and maintaining at least a 6-foot personal separation. So, let's begin.
And I'm missing the timer here is Mary Larson, who sits on the board of the Colonial Beach Foundation. And we have Mayor Robin Schick with us this evening, manning the streaming so that our residents who couldn't make it out tonight will be able to see this. So thank you very much. So we're going to start, Kenny, with an introduction, and we're going to go this way across. You're number 4, we start with 4. Because we're going to start with questions at 1. So tell us about yourself. And when you're getting down to 1 minute left, Mary will raise her hand just to let you know we've got to kind of wrap it up. All those mics are live. There is no way to shut off your mic. So if you're snickering, please don't.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Kenneth Allison. I am currently on the town council, as many of you may know or may not know. I grew up here. Probably 15 of those years I lived in Colonial Beach. The other 15 I lived in King George or Westmoreland County. So I'm from here, lived here my whole life. I grew up on Mimosa Avenue on Bluff Point. Did attend school here for several grade years. My kids have, older kids have graduated from here, Trey, Jordan, and Tristan. I have Tucker, that is a first grader in this school here. My wife, Laura, is also a graduate from here, including my sister, my mother, and I'll stop there. So why run for town council? So I decided to put my name in the hat when Mr. Pat I left, and I thought that I could bring some additional things to the town council with my background. I'm a program director for a government contractor, mostly doing solution architecture type work, which means I do a lot of drawings indicating what systems do. I won't agree to that. But that background allows me to be more data-driven, allow me to understand problems and help solve those. A lot of people may know me as Kenny Knows a Guy, so I may not know all the answers all the time, but I certainly try to find the right ones with the right people. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Andrea?
Hi there. My name is Andrea Clement, and forgive me for reading, but I want to get this right. First, I'd like to thank the Colonial Beach Foundation and the Chamber of Commerce and the Colonial Beach School for allowing us to have this event. My family has lived in Colonial Beach for 18 years. Our 3 children are drifters. They graduated from CPHS and have worked for local businesses and been involved in organizations including Colonial Beach Artist Guild, the Colonial Beach Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and Green Space. My family moved here because I fell in love with this town. I saw the benefits of living in a small beach community with its own school system, volunteer fire and rescue, police department, and local economy. I want to preserve that town that I fell in love with and become an advocate for my fellow neighbors. We have a lot of work to do that needs to be done. As a town, we need to decide what our priorities are. If we don't have that foundation, we will be working against each other on conflicting goals and approaches. Our government and elected officials need to continue their work in communication with the people of the town and making it easy to share ideas and concerns. Good communication is essential. I've placed a handout on all the chairs with information about what I see as priorities for the town that we should focus on. I look forward to speaking more about those priorities as we answer questions during this forum. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Andrea. Ms. Manning?
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and thank you for the Foundation and Chamber for organizing and inviting me to tonight's forum. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maggie Lane. Back in 2011, my grandparents decided to move to Colonial Beach to find their forever home. When they built their house on 12th Street, I spent 3 years driving from Centerville to Colonial Beach to spend weekends and holidays with them. My mom and I finally decided to switch it and make the move to Colonial Beach in 2014, where I moved and enrolled in Colonial Beach High School for my junior year and joined the Colonial Beach basketball team. My senior year, I was a cheerleader and worked at Desmond's Grocery and on the Oyster Bar. I graduated in 2016, and that fall, I went to JMU for a semester, and there I quickly realized that that was not the place for me. And then I came back to Colonial Beach and started working full-time. In 2018, I joined the Colonial Beach Town Hall team. I was hired as a receptionist and administrative assistant, and within a few months, I quickly took over many different roles. After being with the town for a year and took over many different roles, after being with the town for a year, the opportunity came to me to become a town grant writer, and I quickly jumped on it. During my time with the town, I helped secure over $300,000 in grant funding. I also took it upon myself to organize parties for staff, birthdays, holidays, and baby showers for morale boosting events. I was able to learn a lot during my time, and I met a lot of new faces and made a lot of great relationships. With all that said, I've also saw a lot of the bad. I was the first line of defense.
Thank you, Maggie. You can finish up with the closing. Thank you very much. Welcome. David?
Hi, my name is David Williams.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate your time, and I hope you can get to learn a little bit more about myself and the other candidates tonight. The reason why I'm running for Colonial Beach Town Council is because I want to restore confidence in our town government. A lot of the people that I've talked to throughout town feel like the government is not necessarily representing them fairly, so I want to help restore that confidence that people do not have in the town government. I've been a resident of Colonial Beach since 2018, which in the grand scheme of things is a relatively short period of time, but I've gotten to know a lot about the town and the people in the town, and I care enough about it to run for council and make a difference. I've got 25 years of business and government experience. I've got my degree in business and public management, and after I got my degree, I started working for small businesses and became a manager and managed several small businesses. And then after that, I transferred to the public sector, where I now work for a large government agency, and I run a sizable team that coordinates activities, financial activities throughout the country. My experience with, I've also got an experience with town council. I've attended every single meeting over the last year, except for maybe one. And so I've gotten to know a lot about the town, and it just shows my level of commitment. And I've actually been active in these meetings. I've spoken out several times, and I even helped save Castlewood Park when the town slated to destroy that park. So I'm proud of that. I have experience dealing with disasters throughout the country, so I believe that experience will help me tackle some of the big issues that this town faces, like infrastructure, public safety, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. As I said at the beginning, my goal is to restore confidence in our town government, and I believe that I can do that by being open, honest, and transparent with the people of Colonial Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you, everyone. It's just a little glimpse into why you're here. So we're going to start with the questions. We're going to start with David in the number one. He'll have 2 minutes to give his response, and then I'll go down, and if you want to, you'll have 1 minute. You don't need to take that minute. If you have no comment, just say no comment, okay? Start, can I see you? Sorry, see you. Okay. David and other candidates. Bringing businesses into the town of Colonial Beach is critical to our economy. What would you do to encourage new businesses to open here at the beach?
What I would do to encourage more small businesses in town is I would try to encourage the town to be more business friendly. I've talked to a lot of businesses in town, and I've heard some people say we're business friendly, but a lot of people do not think we are. So I would start by finding out from the businesses, especially the newer businesses in town, what their experiences was and how they think that we could change things or make things a little bit easier for them to start up. I know that there's a lot of tourism and small business in town, and I think we need to try to figure out a way to encourage other types of industry in town so that we're not just supported only by tourism and seasonal business. So I think that by doing that, trying to look at the regulations and changing the rules a little bit and making things a little bit more business friendly, I believe that we can start encouraging more businesses in Colonial Beach. Thank you.
So I think in order to move forward with Colonial Beach, we need to be welcoming to a lot of new businesses, which includes small businesses. And with that said, I think a lot of new businesses are probably not as open into opening in Colonial Beach because of the difficulty that it is with working with the town government and
Thank you.
Well, we already have a comprehensive plan in place, and part of the plan is to offer economic incentives to new businesses. I know that when I lived in Fairfax, in Reston and Tyson's Corner, that's how they got all the businesses in there. They offered tax breaks and other types of economic incentives for the businesses. We also have to make the town business friendly. And I think it's a good idea to talk to the different business owners, maybe get their input and find out what they think about this.
Thank you. Kim?
Can you repeat the question? Because it's been
Yeah.
4 people now.
Absolutely, my pleasure, very fair. Bringing businesses into the town of Colonial Beach is critical to our economy. What would you do to encourage new businesses to open here at the beach?
Okay, so as Andrea said, incentives are certainly a way that we can bring businesses to town to allow tax breaks and other things like that. We can also utilize our information, specifically tourism, because we are a tourism town, to bring additional tourism to the beach. For our long-standing businesses, we need processes to ensure that people can fill out the paperwork, get it done in a timely manner, so that it's not necessarily a burden on the business owner, more so on the town staff. But realistically, we need to make it so it's available and easy, whether it's on the website or some form of application that's easy to read, that kind of stuff. And not only that, but we need to go out and address these businesses that we want to bring here and have them come and see what we can offer them.
Thank you, Kim. Steve, question number 2, and this will be going to May to start us off. Ready? Ready? If elected, what is your plan for the $20 a day parking fee that seems to be discouraging visitors to town? Do you want me to repeat that?
Yeah, please.
Yep, no worries. This is your time. It's all about the guys, so you're here to help. If elected, what is your plan for the $20 a day parking fee that seems to be discouraging visitors to town? You have 2 minutes.
Don't think the $20 a day parking is discouraging people at all. As I said, I used to work for the town of Colonial Beach, and for the past 2 years, we've implemented that $20 a day parking, and we've seen a definite increase of tourism. I think the problem is probably communication with those people that are parking. A lot of the time, they don't realize that it is going to be that much when they do come here. And they find it difficult to either use the meter, or they just don't realize that it's going to be that much. And I don't think the problem is at all $20. I think it's just a communication factor. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Andre, 1 minute.
Since we're a public beach and we have visitors, we have to have some sort of paid parking to supplement the cleaning and the upkeep of the town. And the paid parking is a relatively new item that's become part of our budget. So first we have to see whether or not we need that in our budget, how important it is, and then we can do some figure out whether or not we can change or tweak it a little to adjust to where we live. Like possibly maybe in the off season having free parking, and just in the main summer season having paid parking. Then we can encourage some visitors from out of town to come in the winter and the spring when it gets slow up here, because parking will be free. So We'll wait and see. We have to, it's a test right now. We've only been doing it for a short time.
Thank you, Andrea. Kevin?
So I don't agree that it deters the visitors from coming. Our town has been flourishing with a lot of visitors over the summer. I believe that the data that we collect from the meters will determine how much revenue the parking has received. Now, we may have to reevaluate the parking in the off-season, and we may also need to lessen the parking for special events or something like that to help identify areas that, can encourage additional people to come to town. Another gathering that we could have is potentially putting it on the website as a, you see a lot of places like, plan your visit to Colonial Beach area, that could address those concerns that if you park in these certain areas, that could be a map of some sort that says, hey, these are going to be a $20 parking per all day or $2 per hour that we currently use. If it's outside the time frames, we address it.
Thank you very much. David?
Thank you for that question. I believe that we need to do a parking study. We are in desperate need of a parking study and a parking plan in this town. It's a bit ridiculous. I would have to say, I call it the parking lot of Potomac sometimes. It just seems ridiculous that we have no real plan. In fact, behind me in Castlewood Park, the town spread 7,000 square feet of gravel. It didn't say anything to anybody. No traffic study, no nothing. And now you have dangerous areas where people enter in there. So I think we really need to take parking more serious in this town. I'm not a fan of gouging people when they come into town, especially events like the bike fest that just happened. We need, if we're going to enforce parking, it needs to be done fairly and it needs to be communicated clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next question, Ms. Andrea, you can start us off. And then we'll go on. This town enjoys great contributions by its citizens through volunteering their time, treasures, and talents.
Can you repeat that?
Is my bad idea? We'll try again. Ready? Okay. This town enjoys great contributions by its citizens through volunteering their time, treasures, and talents. As you campaign for this largely volunteer position, prior to your run for council, where have you volunteered and why?
Well, I'm a member of Colonial Beach Artists Guild, so I volunteered there. I was instrumental in starting the second Friday art walk with a couple of my friends. We did that because when we moved here, there was not much happening in the wintertime. So we thought it would bring in some business and people and visitors and we could have some fun. I also volunteer with the Colonial Beach Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Not many people in town know about that. We're trying to keep our residents in their houses, especially if you have a modest income. We try to help you with the small repairs that you may need, just to maybe fix a roof or a hole or a bathroom. So those are the two of the main things I volunteer for, but I also have open whenever any of the NGOs need help, they know they can call me for anything, especially art related.
Well, thank you, and thanks for sharing that. Kenny?
So most of my volunteer time, growing with kids, has been with sports. I have several years of coaching Colonial Beach Youth Athletic Association, or CBYA, through flag football with varsity, and then I also help with the Colonial Beach football program and baseball program, whether it be looking at tape or reviewing stuff for Coach Earl or whatever it may be. I do that as well. I'm also volunteer for the Colonial Beach United Methodist Men's yard sales, as well as the op shop in town. We do a lot of volunteering, picking up furniture from people that have moved away, that no longer want stuff in their house, and we go collect that kind of stuff and bring it back to the yard sales or for sale in the out shop. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you so much. David?
Thank you. I've volunteered, throughout my life in various things, PTAs, homeowners associations, and I was the community service chairperson for the Association of Government Accountants, and we did Relay for Life, Salvation Army, food drives and stuff like that. But the thing I'm most proud of and the most recent thing I volunteered for is advocating for the people like you out there in the audience. I've gone to every single town council meeting, and if I see something that I don't agree with, or I don't think that the residents of this town are being represented fairly, I'll speak out on behalf of them. So I believe that that is a great transition to hopefully my next position, which will be town councilman. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next.
So for as long as I can remember, I've always made volunteering a part of my everyday life. When I moved to Colonial Beach, when I took on the part of working for town, I spent a lot more of the 40 hours a week putting back towards the town. I didn't clock those hours. I put them straight towards the town. I would finish the golf cart, the golf cart, and when I did leave the town office, and even before that, I've been working with the St. Mary's Food Pantry as well, along with other special events like the Band Foundation and Shirley's Christmas events that she has for her children. So I put all the spare time that I do have towards Colonial Beach.
Well, thank you, thank all of you for your great volunteerism. Now we're going to do question number 4. Again, we're going to start with you. What is your position concerning Eleanor Park and why? There's a surprising question.
So Eleanor Park. So to me, again, in my statement, I say that I worry about the data, right? So I go back and look at the planning commission meetings, I look back at past town council meetings, talk to prior town council members, including the past mayor. And for me, I believe that the Eleanor Park is a green space that was provided for the town. Now, that green space is provided for everyone, not just a few. However, we have to take that and use that for our benefit, making sure that not everyone has the ability to use it, but also for, hold on, collect my thoughts here. Make sure that everyone has the ability to use it. Now, if the town has an offer for it for sale, I believe that we should review it, understand the meaning of it, and make sure that it's beneficial for the town in that certain area. But if the if we decide that it should stay apart, according to a lot of the town people that I've spoken with, then it should stay apart.
Thank you very much. David, 1 minute.
I believe that we need to do a real survey to find out what the people of Colonial Beach actually want done with that park. I've been told that we've done survey after survey, but it's not true. I've talked to hundreds of people in this town, and I don't believe that they've actually been asked. So I think, first off, we need to do a real survey and do whatever the people say. I would love to see it on the ballot and actually have a referendum and put it on the ballot so that the people could really have a final say. It's a shame because it is a valuable asset, and I'm neutral on it. I know some people say, well, that's not a great answer, you're not saying one way or the other. But I don't know, I've knocked on hundreds of doors in this town, and people are all over the place. Some people want to sell it, some people want to keep the green space, but until we get an actual survey, we don't know. I can tell you one thing, I do not support an easement grant for Eleanor Park. To me, that is like stealing that land from the people. I believe that it's either put it on the ballot or survey, but do not put an easement grant on that property blocking you in forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've made it very clear that I want to own the parcel. As many citizens as I've talked to, they all want it sold. We need to stop making accommodations for the special interest groups and the 1% of citizens in this town. We need to think about what's best for this town. If you do want to turn Delaware Park into a park, or an event space, or a yoga studio, or anything in that realm, you will have to put roughly 40% of that property into parking, no matter what you do with it, unless it is turned into actual homes. You can't develop Delaware Park. We've had an engineer come to different council meetings and state that it can't be developed. We've had site plans say that we can have 11 to 13 lots or as little as 6 lots. It's prime real estate. It's over $100,000 or almost $1 million. It's perfect for single family homes, which we must need. That is very rare for Colonial Beach. We need that real estate to be part of the tax revenue.
Thank you, Mary. Andrea?
Well, during this campaign, we knocked on a lot of doors and talked to a lot of people. And the majority of the people I talked to were strongly in favor of keeping Eleanor Park as a park. I personally didn't care either way. I'm a very pragmatic person. I believe if the town needed the revenue, that the town would sell it. But then I spoke to a friend of mine who's been here, a very good friend, and she reminded me that the land was given to the town for town use, for all the citizens to use. And that changed my mind, because she's been here a long time, and it was so important to her that that land be used by the residents of the town. And I understand that. I could then see that that property could become a community property that we could all use and enjoy. A waterfront property for those of us, like me, who live in that.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, everyone, for that. Question number 5. We're going to start with David, back to the first spot. Ready? Okay. If elected, what would your plan be to improve signage to help our visitors more easily navigate our town?
Well, I believe that, I agree with the fact that the signage is lacking in this town. I remember when they actually first put parking on Washington Avenue, I'm like, how are people even gonna know where to park? We've got like 5 meters spread out, but no markings, nothing. I recently went on vacation to a couple of nice places, Tybee Island, Georgia, and also Savannah. And they have parking meters all over the place, but they have one thing we don't have. They have markings on the spaces so people can clearly identify what space is theirs. So I believe that we need to come up with a better plan to show people when they get into our town where they can and can't park. So I think that would help to come up with, but I think this should also be part of the overall parking plan. Because if we don't have a study to figure out where people can and can't park and where the needs are, and then determine from there how to actually enforce the parking, I think guests are going to be frustrated and upset with this town and probably not want to come back like half the bikers from the other week. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mary?
Could you repeat the question?
My pleasure. If elected, what would your plan be to improve signage to help our visitors more easily navigate our town?
So I think the main factor is communication, of course. When I did work for the town, my main point was when we did implement the new signs along Washington and all those areas, we did put new signage. It's small. A lot of people can't read it. It's up way too high. And again, it just goes back to communication. People aren't going to know what the laws are if you don't tell them. I was a beach ambassador for 2020, and a lot of the time people honestly did not know what the rules were. So just letting them know what our rules are is gonna make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Andrea?
Part of the comprehensive plan is to improve the look of the town with proper signage and clear parking. So we can look at the comprehensive plan and see what they're planning to do.
Perfect, thank you. Kenny?
So one of the areas that we certainly need to address with signage is the direction of where the beaches are. A lot of people drive past Colonial and think that you can drive straight down and go to parking, which we help eliminate with that with the no outlet sign, but it's still a little bit of not clear on which way the beaches are. We do have signs, but they certainly need to be a little bit clearer. Now, as far as parking and those type of signages, we certainly need to make sure that they're all universal and able to be read and understand where the actual parking areas are pegged. Working with Public Works, there was supposed to be painted areas for parking. However, due to COVID, there was the paint got delayed. So I know that the town is currently working on that. I've worked with that as part of the Public Works liaison. So that part of it is coming to be able to identify which areas are able to be parked in and which areas are labeled, which are now yellow, should be a different color. But they're going to be labeled so you can actually see where they are.
Perfect, thank you very much. Now we're going to go on to question number 6. We're going to start with Kenny. So how do you think the Colonial Beach Police Department activities can be improved?
So I think the main part of the issue that we have with the Colonial Police Department is just visitation. A lot of the times we don't see our police chief, we don't see the people that are on call that evening. They're all at the police station and hiding back behind the desks. So I think just making sure that they are out patrolling the area as much as possible and making sure that their presence is known. It's gonna make a big difference within this town.
Thank you. Andrea, 1 minute.
I believe since we have a community police force, we should have community policing, and the police force should be more visible in town. Maybe introduce themselves to business owners. Maybe each officer have a different section of town where they can get to know the locals, so that if there's an issue, they know who and why it happened, and they can respond quickly and have the information ahead of time about the people they will be serving.
Perfect, thank you so much. Kenny?
Visibility to the community is certainly an item that we need to address. We have to make sure that all of our citizens feel safe in our community and make sure that businesses know that, if they have an issue, they have someone to call. We also need to make sure that we are fully staffed as a police department so that way we can ensure that we have enough police officers to facilitate all over town and making sure that the shifts are covered to make sure that the whole town is patrolled, especially in areas where there have been activities lately. We can certainly address those, making sure that the police officers are patrolling areas that are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Perfect. David?
On all my travels throughout the town of Colonial Beach, there's 2 things that are very important to people, and that's public safety and infrastructure. Well, on the public safety part of things, there's a lot of things that can be done to help this town. For example, the previous police chief used to give a monthly report to town council. I have only heard 1 report all year, and that's because myself and some others advocated for the real crime records because we found out that the crime doubled over the last 6 years. So that drug task force, we reinstate the drug task force. The town of Colonial Beach, as many of you may not even realize, got kicked off the task force several years ago because our people were tipping off the drug dealers before they got here. So that better lighting throughout town, many people are concerned about that. And also just police presence and police enforcement and paying the police officers a little bit more money. I mean, we're training them, we're spending all this time and money training them, and then they just leave and go somewhere else. So we need to keep these good officers and make them part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going on to question number 7, and we're going to start with Andrea. 2 minutes. With assessments likely to go up on the valuation of our homes, would you advocate for lowering the percentage charged to the homeowner to stabilize the amount owed? And if so, why?
Can you repeat that, or just the first part?
I sure will. With assessments likely to be going up on the valuation of our homes, would you advocate for lowering the percentage charged to the homeowners to stabilize the amount owed? And why?
One more time?
Sure.
There's an echo.
Okay.
We're hearing back to the side.
Got it. Is this better? We'll try again. With assessments likely to go up on the valuation of our homes, would you advocate for lowering the percentage charged to the homeowner to stabilize the amount owed? And why?
That really depends on the budget and the revenue that we need to take in because with the improvements that are happening in the town, we may not be able to reduce the amount that we're charging.
Okay. Thank you very much. Kenny?
You're going to have to repeat that again, I'm sorry.
That's why I'm here. With assessments likely to go up on the valuation of the home, would you advocate for lowering the percentage that's charged on the assessment to stabilize the amount owed? And if so, why?
I can understand the question. A lot of the individuals in town may be on a set income due to retirement and those kind of things. But I don't necessarily feel that we should lower the rate due to the assessment. You're actually getting a benefit because your property value is now worth more than it was prior. So I don't think I would lower the assessment.
Thank you. David?
100% I would lower the assessed property value, or the percentage. I do not want to see our taxes, and I'm sure most of the people out here do not want to see our taxes go up. And I've heard that Westmoreland County is actually around recessing, and could increase our property taxes by up to 15%, and that really worries me. There's a lot of people in this town on fixed income, and they do not have the money or the ability to pay higher taxes. And part of my platform is fiscal responsibility, and I'm 100% behind that statement when I say that every hard-earned dollar out of the pocket of Colonial Beach families is a dollar wasted. So I say no to, or yes to lowering the percentage. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie?
So I would have to agree with David, of course. Not making it harder for those that are fixed income. As part of my platform, it is to let citizens know what other programs are available for those citizens. There are a lot of resources out there for people that are on fixed income that those citizens don't even know about. If I were to be elected, I would make it my priority to make sure that people know what resources are out there for them.
Perfect, thank you very much. Now we're on to question number 8, and we're going to start with Kenny. What town properties should be sold?
Let's
own all the town properties, I can't give you an actual answer for that. I know that we are currently in, discussion with Dyson through phase 1 and phase 4 for those current properties for the town, in downtown on the beach. But without you having the answer to having all town-owned properties, I can't give you a definitive answer.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to David.
I think it's a no-brainer. Any property that the town doesn't need to retain, we should go ahead and sell. I've heard that the town owns a ton of property, and so I would say go ahead and sell whatever you got. We've got plenty of green space in this town, so I don't think that we need to keep empty building lots or empty lots that are just sitting there with dilapidated buildings. So if it can be sold, go ahead and sell it. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie?
I'm not sure what other properties the town owns besides one that are already in agreement with Johnson and Elmer Park. Obviously, I've already stated that I am totally for the sale at Elmer Park. I would have to definitely go back and do some more research. But again, I am for the sale of Elmer Park as long as it would bring more money into the town and impact us in policy.
Perfect. Andre?
I'm also not sure about what properties are for sale, other than, that the town owns, other than the ones downtown and Elmwood Park. And with the town also needs spaces to change, to put their businesses in, they may have to move some buildings. The rescue squad needs a new space, so if the town has other places, they can build better fire department and rescue squad buildings. They might want to use that. So I would wait and decide on a case-by-case business on each piece of property.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to question number 9, and we're going to start with David. What are the 2 top issues you would like to work on in order to positively impact and improve our community?
Well, I actually mentioned those earlier, public safety and infrastructure. Those are the 2 big ones that everybody in town has issues with. They're very concerned, flooding. So for infrastructure, I would say we need to make sure that we have an action plan for that and be more transparent with it. I'm not sure if infrastructure will come up later, so I'll maybe save some of my comments for that. So infrastructure, just coming up with a real plan for it and letting people in town see what's happening. I would suggest even putting we're getting a brand new website, and the town's spending almost 30 grand on a brand new website, which I'm not happy about that kind of money, but since we're gonna do that anyway, why not go ahead and dedicate 1 page strictly to infrastructure? Because infrastructure is a big deal for people. So put a map on there, show them what's going on, and be transparent as possible with infrastructure. And public safety, I mentioned earlier some of the things I would do, like showing people, like starting a new drug task force and neighborhood watch and better lighting and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maggie, 1 minute.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What are the 2 top issues you would like to work on in order to positively impact and improve our community?
The first would definitely be communication and transparency. I think that since I left working for the town, one thing that I was responsible for was co-write messages. I've only received 1 since I left the town, and those are just a great way for citizens to be informed firsthand. Definitely the second would be safety. Everybody wants to feel safe in their home, and right now, I've talked to many people, and they don't feel safe. A lot of that is due to the lack of police presence and the lack of leadership in this town.
Thank you very much. Andrea?
Healthcare and safety are very important to me and important to our residents in our town. But what's most important to me is infrastructure, because if we want to grow as a town and improve and invite new businesses, we have to improve our infrastructure. Also, that's important to me is education. The schools are very important to me because my kids went here to this school. And we need to make sure that these kids graduate and move on to college or move on to whatever we're going to, whatever the future they have. Make sure they have a future so that they're not the kids in town causing trouble and getting into trouble and doing drugs.
Thank you. Okay.
So two of the projects that I would certainly put forth effort to is making sure the infrastructure is done in an engineered way that we can make sure that it's done right the first time. We're not band-aiding it along the way. The other thing to me is making sure that the north side has a park. And I mean Walk Point, Meadows, and the classic shores of the number streets. Growing up in Walk Point, you know, having to ride all the way down to the boardwalk or on a bike, or the blacktop, to be able to play basketball and stuff like that, or the jungle gym. Having one on the north side is certainly important to me and important to the community.
Thank you very much. We are now on to question number 10, and then we'll start with May. And if you'll have 2 minutes. What do you see as the most important job of a member of town council?
I definitely see the most important job of town council is to represent people. We're elected by the people, and our first job is to represent the people. I think during the past year, it's become obvious that town council members have their own agenda in their heads, and their first responsibility isn't towards the town. They want to do what they think is best for them and what's best for the special interest groups and their friends. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stand up for what's right, what I think the town has, what is best interest for the town. I'm not going to just be another yes man. I'm going to vote no when I think no is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Andrea, 1 minute.
I believe you need to be a representative for the people of Colonial Beach. They need a voice, so you need to be open and accessible and able to communicate with each other to help with the budget and the infrastructure and to help create a plan for our future of this town.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, sure can. What do you see as the most important job of as a member of town council?
The most important job is certainly to represent the town, represent the people, work with your fellow town council members to ensure that items get done. There's no point of not being on there if you're not going to try to make sure that you're doing things for the town. That includes infrastructure and public safety and all those type of things to ensure that you're doing the best for the town. Now, I don't necessarily agree that everyone in the town council is part of any special interest group or anything like that. I certainly am not. I did not take any donations for this council to be part of the town council or anything like that. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Thank you. And David?
I believe the most important thing for a town council member is to represent the people. Put the people first. My slogan is working for you for a reason, because I believe I've been to every council meeting except for one over the last year, and I've seen things where I've actually spoken out and advocated for the residents myself, and I get up there and I say something and it just goes in one ear and out the other. And it just doesn't seem right to me. The people of this town deserve to be represented fairly, they deserve answers. And that's what I'm gonna do if I get on town council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for that question. Going on to question number 11. We're going to start with Andrea. You don't have 2 minutes. What do you think you could do as a council person to influence the design of the condos on the boardwalk?
Well, as a town council member, you're part of the referendums and the doing the work to make the decision of, along with the town residents, as to what kind of look we want for downtown. The planning commission and the comprehensive plan already have the design in mind, and the job now is to discuss openly with the residents of the town, get their input on what they think we should be doing moving forward with that.
Thank you very much. Kenneth? I will repeat the question. What do you think? What do you think you could do as a council person to influence the design of the condos on the boardwalk?
Well, as a town council person, I don't necessarily think that we would have an influence in the design. I think we would have an influence on whether or not we approve the design that's provided to us. That has to all go through the planning commission to make sure that it abides by all the ordinances that, for that specific area. But we can certainly take residents' input and stuff like that to the town council through public hearings and to understand the wants of the town people. But I don't necessarily think we would influence the design of it. We would certainly approve of whether or not the designs meet with the characteristics the town requires.
Perfect, thank you very much. David?
Honestly, I'm not sure how much influence the town council members could have over the design. I know when it was presented as this luxury project for everybody, all the citizens, this was many months back, it started out as a 3-story building right on the water. And recently, that along with several other things have changed about the plans with, I don't think, any real communications with people of Colonial Beach or their input. It went from 3 stories to 1 story, and now it looks like kind of like a prison on the front. I'm not sure if that's what the people of Colonial Beach want. Also, the old bank building went from business to, and possibly a brewery or some restaurant, to now it's going to be office space. And the old school board building went from, I don't know, businesses to now short-term rentals. So I don't know if the process has been very transparent. It hasn't been for myself, so I'm assuming that probably a lot of the residents feel the same way.
Thank you. Jackie?
If I were elected to be part of council, I only have one voice. All I can do is say no, but changes they would see as appropriate.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to question number 12, and we're going to start with Henry. Please name one strength and one weakness. That's going out. One strength and one weakness you have that relates to leadership. Leadership.
So one strength that I would certainly say I have is the ability to come and talk to me about anything. I'm very easygoing. I'm able to listen to whatever problems you may have, try to understand them from your perspective, give me some feedback on whether or not I can assist you as leadership, as a boss for my particular company. I mean, I'm very approachable to all my employees. I can certainly address any concerns with them. As far as the weakness, I would say I guess a lot of times I care too much. You know, I don't want to have people discouraged or anything like that. I tend to go overboard with a lot of stuff to make sure that people are happy with what they have. And, I don't necessarily think it's a weakness, and maybe a strength. I'm not sure, but that's my answer. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. David?
I believe one of my strengths is the ability to lead a team in a stressful situation. Responding to natural disasters, you have to stay calm and you have to approach things very methodically. So I believe that that's one of my strengths. Weakness, sometimes I take on a little bit too much, but when you're in a disaster response field, you sometimes have to do that. There's not really a lot of choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie?
Could you repeat the question, please?
I sure can. Please name one strength and one weakness you have that relates to leadership.
One strength is probably, even though I know it's a difficult task, I'm not willing to sit back and watch injustice happen. I'm gonna be the person that's standing up for every single person in this town and make sure that your voice is heard, because for the past 3 years, when I did work for the town, I was listening to each and every one of you. I was listening to what you had to say and honestly taking it in. One weakness would probably be that I care too much. And honestly, that probably was what pushed me out of town. I cared way too much, and my impact was just not enough. And they pushed me out because of that. I was loyal to the previous town manager because I knew what great things could happen from Colonial Beach. And other council members didn't see that. So they pushed me out because of that.
Thank you, Maggie. Andrea?
One of my strengths is that when an issue comes up, I listen, I try to understand it, I do my research, and I make my decision based on facts, not emotions. My weakness would be I'm a little too friendly. I do get too involved, but I will stop doing that because I think that's important.
Please don't give up being kind and friendly. Now we're going to go on to question number 13, and we'll start with David. The town council holds an annual public work session in January on more than 40 priorities that come from citizens. Give an example of a specific project you are in favor of, and how should it be paid for? Starting with David.
Okay, well, that's a little tricky one, I guess, lucky number 13. I am familiar with the meetings you're talking about, the priority meetings. I actually attended online this year and actually provided feedback to the town as they were going through. So I'm very familiar. In fact, during that meeting, they kind of slipped something through with on a parking easement there that I wasn't really a fan of. But as far as projects, obviously the number one is infrastructure. And I know that there's different levels of the infrastructure projects on the thing, but I would say probably, fixing some of the potholes on these roads, making people a little happier. I mean, they're pretty upset. So maybe some of the guys that used to work for town public works told me that there's a company out there that come into your town in like 2 days, patch all your potholes. So maybe we could start with something like that to make people feel a little more confident in that their VDOT money's going somewhere other than down the drain. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie, 1 minute.
I think one project would probably just be revitalization of the town website. One of my jobs when I did work for the town was being responsible for the town website. And it wasn't the best organized thing, and I think one issue is definitely transparency and communication. And one way that citizens get that communication and information is definitely from the town website. When I did work for the town, one project that we were focusing on was finding a new host and a new website revitalization, and obviously that still has not happened since I left. So definitely just revamping that to make sure that communication is easy for all citizens.
Perfect, thank you very much. Andrea?
Well, one item that's most important to me that most people will know that nobody will not be surprised about is the Colonial Beach Redevelopment and Housing Authority. That is a town entity, but they're running out of funds. And the reason I joined the group is it's so important to me that our elderly citizens and our citizens that have a modest income can live comfortably in their houses, that they have working bathrooms, that they have patched roofs, that they have windows that don't leak. Just building a ramp for someone so they can use their wheelchair to get into their house. That's really important to me, and that would be what I would care about.
Thank you. Amy?
So certainly a project that I would be most interested in is our infrastructure. Making sure that we fix a lot of our stormwater management and to include the sewer issues that we currently have and how we would pay for that. The majority of that is in place now to try to facilitate some of that would be the ARPA funds that we receive from the state. We can certainly utilize that to benefit the town and make sure that we are in fact fixing the issue, not just kicking the can down the road to the next issue. So that would be my answer.
All right, thank you very much. Question number 14. We're going to start with Maggie. You'll have 2 minutes. I have no children. However, I view CD schools as a valuable resource for our community. My question is, what specifically could our schools and community do to help each other achieve goals and bring about more positive involvement by all of us, for all of us? Need me to repeat that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I have no children. However, I view CD schools as a valuable resource for our community. My question is, what specifically could our schools and community do to help each other achieve goals and bring about more positive involvement by all of us, for all of us?
I think one thing would definitely be communication. Through this whole COVID thing, I've been talking with fellow parents, and they have no idea what's going on with the school. Their children had to go on quarantine for 14 days, even if they're not exposed, and they're all frustrated. And I'd be frustrated too. I think across the board, communication is lacking between the school, between the town, between all of us. And just being forthcoming with information and being honest and truthful will make a big impact.
Thank you, Amy. Andrea?
I think that it would be important to do this. We could invite the community to school events and maybe involve the students in more community events. If we could bring the students to help with the fundraisers and the events in town, and they could get some of their credits for graduation. And maybe invite the community and let them know about the games and the performances at the school. There would be a connection there. We also need PTA. This is one, we always had a PTA, but since COVID, that's gone. So that connection between the parents and the teachers has been displaced. So we need to install a PTA again and just try to get involved more with the schools. Maybe come to the football games and the basketball games and get to know the kids. They're great kids we have in this town.
Thank you, Andrea. Kenny?
Could you repeat the question?
I sure can. I'm just going to skip to my question is, what specifically could our schools and community do to help each other achieve goals and bring about more positive involvement by all of us and for all of us?
So I think we should, one of the things would certainly be having community involvement in our school sports. A lot of you could certainly come to a lot of the school sports. Lately with COVID, it's been a limited attendance, but typically, the basketball games, the football games are very well attended, but it's not necessarily communicated to the community, other than most of the time the kids that attend the school, their parents and that kind of stuff. But having community involvement, coming to those games and seeing the kids and rooting them on, and which in return, some of the kids can certainly glean off of wisdom from our community.
All right, thank you very much. David?
I agree with what the other candidates said, so I won't repeat what they said. Community involvement, communication is obviously key. So since they've already said all that, I would just like to say, I believe that we need to find ways to improve our schools. I've heard that the teachers don't get paid enough, and it's hard to keep and recruit good teachers, so I believe that by coming up with a plan for that, that would be an excellent start to help improve the schools and the community. So that's one of the areas I'd like to see improved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go on to question number 15, where this is some of the writings that came in this evening. So this will start with Andrea. I'm curious about solutions for stormwater management. Up in the northern end of town, we all have culverts in front of our homes. These take a long time to drain, meaning they stagnate. How do you propose to fix it?
Well, stormwater management is an engineering problem. We have a plan and a comprehensive plan to take care of that. We also got some money recently to do some of the work.
Thank you very much. Eddie?
So in order to fix the issue, we've got to know what all the issues are. We're currently doing studies right now in terms of stormwater management and how those flows are going through our GIS mappings through town. And once we get those results, we can certainly pinpoint areas that need to be addressed. It could be a multitude of different items where we have broken pipes or maybe just clogged pipes. So once we understand the flow and how that items are, once we understand the flow and how we can address those issues, we can implement solutions.
Perfect, thank you, Kenny. David?
I agree that that's a serious issue. I've actually spoken to a lot of people, especially on the north side of town, and, well, all over town. And drainage is a huge issue for them. In fact, I got to put mosquito spray on when I go out to these houses because I get eaten alive by mosquitoes because the water just stands and flows all over town. So I believe that what we need to do is start off by better mapping. I've heard the towns doing the GSI mapping, but we're strongly lacking in that area. And it sounds like an area that could be quickly resolved because the information's out there and it's available. So I would say better mapping, locating the areas that are the worst in town. You know, if you have a foot of water after a storm, you know, you should be put on a priority list. And that map I was talking about, you know, on the town website, we have a page strictly dedicated to infrastructure. Put those areas on there and let's try to pinpoint them and see where we can make that water flow and get rid of it for crying out loud. Thank you.
Thank you.
So obviously, this is a big issue that everybody faces in town. The GIS mapping software has been ready to be implemented for over the past year. We just need to put all town budget towards fixing this issue. We don't need to put towards the money towards beautification and planting more trees along the boardwalk. We need to put it towards the other stuff that is below the dirt that nobody will ever see. Because I've heard from meetings, there are pipes that used to be concrete that are no longer there. So if you want to sit there and just plant trees, okay, but I'm gonna put all the money I can towards fixing this issue because it's an issue we all face. My backyard floods every single time it rains, and I'm not the only person. Thank you.
Thank you. This is our final question, is that right? Yes. So good job, guys. This will be our 16th question, and we will lead off with Penny. What is your position on workplace housing and low-income housing?
So my position on workforce housing is desperately needed in our town. We need a place to live that we can afford. You know, we have to make sure that the people that live in this area have the ability to purchase a house and not be burdened by the expensive cost of you know, high-priced housing that, you know, unfortunately has taken over. I mean, I know COVID and has allowed people to work from home a lot. So that's helped some if you're able to do that. But I mean, like me, I live in workforce housing. I want to make sure that that is available for everyone. As far as the other low-income housing. So low-income housing, I mean, I believe this is the case for that. We currently have some of that within the town of Colonial Beach. We are limited on the amount of space that's available to build on, other than I believe a couple of the number streets that we still need to build out at some point in time. I don't see necessarily an issue with low-income housing as long as it's you know, needed and required within the town limits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David?
I do believe this is an issue that is a big concern for residents of Colonial Beach. I think part of the problem with affordable housing, which I consider, you know, your average housing for doctor or for teachers and police officers and stuff like that. I believe part of the problem is we have too many Airbnbs and short-term rentals. There's no regulation on that. And I know the town's actually getting ready to address that soon. I think it's gone to the planning commission. So I definitely would like to see that addressed. As far as low-income housing, this town already has 85% of all of the county's low-income housing, government subsidized housing, so I don't believe we need any more of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beach already has 4 complexes for subsidized assisted living. Comprehensive plan actually addresses this and says that Colonial Beach has kept pace with the demands for subsidized housing and is now focused on future housing resources to accommodate for the workforce. So I think we are definitely okay right now for subsidized and low-income housing. We need to now focus on not building more townhouses and condos. We need to focus on single-family homes where people can come live and actually put money towards local restaurants, grocery stores, and other shops, because those are the people that buy those houses.
Thank you very much. Andrea?
We need more workforce housing as our income levels go up and the cost of living goes up and how much our houses are worth goes up, the rents are also going up for these people. So to work in a town like this, you want to work close to where you live because the commute costs you a lot of money. So if we want businesses in town, the businesses will need a workforce, and the workforce will need somewhere to live. So right now, we don't have enough workforce housing, I can tell you that. And a lot of what's considered low-income housing and subsidized housing is housing that's for elderly people. So do we have enough of that? The wait list is years long. So I think we need more of that also.
Thank you, Andrea. I thank all of you. You've done a terrific job with the questions. Thank the audience for their support. We're going to do closing now. And you've got 2 minutes. And David, we'll start with you and we'll go right down the line.
I just want to say again, thank you for coming out, everybody, tonight. I really appreciate your time. It's great that we have this level of community involvement and interest in something like this. Town council is not necessarily exciting, to all, but it really shows me that people care. First thing I want to say is please vote. Ask everybody who's watching online or in the audience, please vote. There was only 17 votes between the mayor race last time around, so every vote does count. So just for people who don't think that that's true, it is true. I believe I'm the best candidate for the job because of many of the things that I've told you tonight. My business experience, the fact that I'm committed to putting the people first. That's my pledge to everyone here. And like I said earlier, I've advocated for the people, so I've proven that I'm actually willing to do that by going to all these meetings and actually participating and speaking out for the residents. If I get elected, I'm going to continue to do that. I will not stop. I pledge that. I don't have any special interests that I'm involved in that will take me away from representing the people first. And I plan to communicate continually with the people by town halls, by reaching back out to people, maybe even knocking on their doors and asking them how they feel about things in town, just so that I can keep my hand on the pulse when it comes to representing you. I pledge no closed doors. That's one of my pet peeves. I believe that it seems like a lot of the decisions that are made by the current council are already decided before they even get in and hear the public comment, because it doesn't seem like it's considered that often. So I pledge not to do that, not to do the closed door thing. I'll just remind you that, like I said earlier, I've been active, and Castlewood is one example of helping save that, and then there's other projects I've worked on. And like I said earlier, my slogan is working for you, and that's what I pledge to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you're on.
So thank you all again for coming out tonight. Obviously, I just studied a lot tonight and had some issues answering questions, but wouldn't know everyone if they were in that position. I spent over 3 years and 40 hours a week in town hall working directly for the town manager. You're not going to find a candidate who has more knowledge of the town than working and has as most raw, unfiltered knowledge as I do. I've already established relationships with town employees, and I already know what's going to fix this town. because I've seen the good and the bad, and I know what good leadership does for this town. For the past year, the council has put aside what's best for the town, and they put their own agendas first. They put special interest groups and their friends in front of the town, Colonial citizens. When voting for me, you're not gonna get another yes woman. You're gonna get not another person that holds the pack. I'm not gonna sit back and witness all that is happening. I'm gonna stand up and use my voice to fix what's wrong with this town. So please get out and vote on November 2nd and write me in, because I know what needs to change in this town. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Andrea?
Thank you all for coming tonight. It is nice to see these friendly faces. A key characteristic for an elected official is their honesty in both their actions and in their approach to issues. A council person is a representative of all the people, not a champion for a special interest group or a narrow perspective. I make my decisions carefully and thoughtfully. I always try to examine both sides of an issue before I come to a conclusion. And most importantly, I listen. I want to hear your opinion or experience so that I can figure out the best way to move forward, to help you, to support you, or to inform you of decisions being made so that we can all feel like we're moving forward together. On November 2nd, please consider me for the town council. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. I appreciate everyone listening to everything that we had to say tonight. For me personally, when I was asked to be on town council, when I was put on there, it wasn't something that I necessarily had planned to do. It was something that I felt, in here that I wanted to be a part of the town. I wanted to make sure that my voice was heard, and that, at some point in time that I could say that I was part of the progress that helped the town get to where it needed to be. Now, I have kids that live here. Hopefully one day I have grandkids, not anytime soon. But, I want to make sure that we are building a town for our future. That's kind of the whole point, is making sure that, the infrastructure's fixed, the parks are on the north side, or we have public safety and those type of things. So that's really what I'm running for, is for everyone. Everyone that has kids, everyone that has parents, everyone that has grandparents that have lived here. I have multiple generations that have lived in this town. So I want to make sure that, it continues to progress and it's for everyone. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out. First, I'd like to give a big round of applause for all the candidates that continue to great job. Thank you all who came out this evening, and please come out to vote if you haven't voted already. I just put a little plug in. Every third Thursday, the Community Foundation does a meetup at 6 o'clock to get to know each other. Whether you're new to town, old to town, want to make new friends, check out our website. It's a way to continue to build a community. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, as always, for being the co-host of this event. And get out and vote on the 2nd. Thank you, everyone.